Morning.
You can start.
Just in terms of WHL's due diligence, Akeem said that no one really reached out to him. Just wondering if you can confirm that, and who did the WHL talk to during this process?
Well, we've been involved with the Shades of Humanity for several years now. They've been helping us with our diversity and inclusion policy, and we take advice from them on the approach. And we focused on Bill's training and coaching program. We felt that was really important and that the apology should follow that, and that was part of the discussion we had with both the agency and with Bill leading into today's announcement.
Just why didn't you reach out to Akeem, though, given he was a central figure in all of this a few years ago?
Well, I think that was really not our responsibility. We felt that was really Bill's responsibility. Ultimately, I know Bill's looking forward to try and connect with Akeem as soon as possible, and every effort will be made in that regard.
And just the NHL investigation, the league did open something on Bill. Did you consult with them?
Yes, you did. Yes, we consulted with all levels of hockey, including the National Hockey League, and before this decision. And but ultimately, it came down to a Western Hockey League decision. Ultimately, and we're comfortable that with the environment we've created, our focus on education, especially our Respect in Hockey programs, the policies that we have in place today, that we think it's a right environment for someone to re-enter the game, if you will. By providing that level of support and education. We're a development league. We cater to our players to make sure they're educated on all these various topics, and we have very extensive commitment to diversity and inclusion programming.
What other players of color or other execs of color, other persons of color did you speak to ensure that the environment that you have set is actually right for players of color to be into, to be in the WHL?
We speak constantly to all of our, not only our teams, management, coaches, our players directly with respect to our education programs, and that's something that we do on a constant basis. We're discussing these issues on a regular basis. In fact, at our annual meeting in June, a considerable amount of time, the majority of our time was spent on our environment and how we can improve that environment for our players and provide a very safe and positive experience for them at all times.
You mentioned that it was Bill's responsibility to reach out to Akeem to get that apology, but also mentioning that ultimately this did come down to a WHL decision, if I understand that right. How do you explain that, knowing that a crucial part of that step seems to have been left way too late? Or not done at all, we don't know.
Well, I think, as you know, the hiring process was very late with respect to this, the hiring of Bill just prior to the start of training camp, and there wasn't a lot of time available to all those various steps. We are very open to speaking to anyone on this issue directly, to Akeem Alou, to players in our league, to staff, etc. And we will continue to do that. And there wasn't enough time available, quite frankly, given this announcement occurring within a few days.
When did you hear that there was a possibility that Bill would be in consideration for this job?
This would have been probably 5 or 6 days ago that there was a discussion taking place, and we started consulting with the various leagues and organizations regarding it, and of course engaged our agency, Shades of Humanity, in this process.
And what steps is the league taking to actively ensure that these teams and this space remains a safe place for its players?
Yeah, well, we believe our Respect in Hockey program is very comprehensive. In fact, we think it's industry leading in many areas. We have an extensive online education program that the players and staff, everyone associated with the league, is required to go through. We have a direct relationship, of course, with Respect in Sport, and have for many, many years in terms of their program, their certification. And we have a series of workshops. In many cases, the workshop in this particular year will focus on diversity and inclusion issues. So we're very comfortable that we have not only a very significant level of education taking place, but also some policies and regulations that apply to everyone in the league, players, coaches, and all of the staff as well.
Will you be actively monitoring the situation specifically here in Lethbridge, just to make sure that the situation here does remain safe for its players, or are you leaving that more up to the team?
Well, the team is directly responsible day to day, obviously, but the league will continue to monitor the matter throughout the course of the season, and there's continued education, which Bill's committed to. The organization, of course, is part of our Respect in Hockey program. So, but we will be monitoring over the course of the season.
As you know, there will be people who don't agree with the signing of Bill. I guess maybe what have you heard from fans, ticket season holders, maybe just to help them out, help ensure that they know that this won't happen moving forward too?
Well, I think that, obviously we take these matters very seriously, and again, I think the education we put at the forefront of all this with our players, especially with the age of our players coming in. Not only are our players who are joining our teams now that are going to be part of the roster players, but players attending training camps will also be receiving all of this education. So I think the key for our players, for our organizations, and for our communities and our fans in particular is to understand the league's commitment to education and our zero tolerance policy with respect to diversity.
Just on that, obviously you mentioned young players coming in here. What do you say to parents or players who have any potential concerns?
Well, first of all, I think when they understand the extent to which the Western Hockey League is committed to ensuring that they have a safe and positive environment at all time, and when you engage with the Western Hockey League, the first impression you get, I'm hoping, is going to be not only your on-ice experience, but the extent to which we educate our players on these issues through our Respect in Hockey program. So I think that provides a level of reassurance. At least that's the feedback we receive from parents, that they really appreciate the fact that we are going to the extent we are to educate the players to make responsible decisions moving forward.
During the statements, if I remember correctly, there was some mention of some kind of agreement with the WHL that you guys have talked about. What are the terms of that? What are kind of the things that have been laid out for Bill by the WHL?
Yeah, there was a series of, I would call them conditions that were applied to this, and it started with the anti-racism diversity training with our agency, Shades of Humanity, and once that was completed, then we wanted to go through a few more steps, which included the acknowledgement and apology that Bill granted today as part of his statement. We wanted to make sure there was continued education and a commitment to comply with all of our policies, including our diversity and inclusion policy, which speaks directly to the anti-racism issue.
I guess, Ron, Bill had some success in the league before us, but win the Memorial Cup before he moved on to different, moved up, I guess. What does it mean to kind of have him back in the league as a coach in general?
Well, Bill's been successful at every level he's coached, and certainly his career in the Western Hockey League speaks for itself, winning a Memorial Cup and a WHL championship with the Spokane Chiefs, and he has a strong connection to this community as well, having coached at the University of Lethbridge. And I think his resume as a hockey coach speaks for himself, and I think his overall development as a person is going to just benefit by being in our league, given the emphasis we have on education in this particular area. And I think that's why the environment that he's coming into will really help him in this next phase of his career.
Thank you so much.